Gentlemen, ladies, and anyone in between, I welcome you all, and today we're going to be talking about a brand spanking new rod from J&H Tackle, which falls under their Dark Matter umbrella, the brand spanking new Dark Matter O.B, which stands for Open Beach. And when I tell you guys that I've been intentionally using this rod as far outside its intended purpose as you can possibly get, I've even gone to the point where I've stripped off all the guides and rewrapped it conventional. I gotta tell you, it's a very versatile rod. Everything I threw at it, it seemed to do very well at. So, let's get down to the nitty-gritty, but before we start, I just want to disclose I have a personal relationship with J&H Tackle. I've been friends with Josh now for going on 2 years. I went to the Bassmaster Classic with him, spent a week down there in Knoxville. I recommend people go make purchases through him all the time, and you guys, through the affiliate links down below, every time you click on something and buy from J&H, I get 5%. Now, with that out of the way, I'm not going to sacrifice my integrity for 5% on 20 or 30 rods that you guys buy through links. It's just not financially worth it. If this rod's a piece of garbage, I'd let Josh know that it might not be a good idea to bring it out. Now, with that being said, not only do I like this rod so much that I want to encourage you guys to, give this rod a spin. It's a $250 stick. You're not going to be breaking the bank for it. It's not a rod that you're going to be using all day, every day, and in every condition, throwing every type of lure. But it is extraordinarily fun to fish. And the lighter end of the spectrum, it is very versatile. It's so versatile that, and I like the blank's action and sensitivity so much that I want to see if it translates into a conventional layout. I want to see if I can put a Tranx 200, a Corrado K, a Scorpion MGL, a Metanium DC, a Steez. I was fishing last night with the Steez. Any of the smaller freshwater size bait casters, and some of the larger low profiles like the Revo Toro Beast 40, the Tranx 300, the Lexa 300. It has an action that translates very well to doing things in freshwater. But we're going to start off talking about how it handles assault. Throwing baits up to 1.75 ounces, it blasts them out of sight. If it's a long distance payload like a Yozuri twitch bait, like a Super Strike Little Neck Popper, as long as you're under that 2 ounce realm, you can really fire this thing. If you're a competent caster and you really know how to load a rod, you go up to that 2.5 ounce range, you'll fold the thing in half. Here's a video of me doing a full butt load, if you will, on 2.5 ounces. And that's kind of pushing it. You can cast 2.5 all day, every day, as long as you're not really leaning into it. It really starts to get a little spongy at 2.25. If you really know how to load up a rod, at 2 ounces is when you got to kind of take it easy. Otherwise, anything below that, down to 1/4 ounce, I've been having fun with freshwater jerkbaits. A Shimano Cardiff Toga 67S, which is a little 67 millimeter jerkbait, which I think is 1/8 ounce. I got at the opposite bank on one of the biggest rivers in the state using an 8-pound braid on a Daiwa Certate 2500 LT. When it comes to throwing jigs, whether you're throwing skirted bass jigs, I was able to hit 171 feet with I think it was a 3/8 ounce with a Kitech trailer, and a 5-pound bass thumped it the second it hit the water, and it felt like it was right off the rod tip. That's how sensitive it was. I get to throw 1.5 ounce bucktails in current and have fun dragging, stripers up to 30 inches, up against a 3-knot current, which I don't recommend doing with this rod. That's kind of outside of its comfort range. Larger striped bass in heavy current, you're bottoming out and you don't have much headroom in the power curve to really pull fish and put the screws to the fish. But again, it's not designed for that, but that's what we were testing it, and it did it okay. It was fun. If I were catching 20-pound fish in current, I wouldn't want this rod for the job at all whatsoever, period. A couple things about the makeup of the rod. It's a 10-footer with a very short butt. Most surf rods have a 20-inch extended butt that gives you leverage when casting. With a light rod, you don't need that leverage. I'm the kind of guy that when I was a kid, when I was 8, 9 years old, 30 years ago, I grew up fishing salmon steelhead rods, so fishing an 8.5 foot, 9.5 foot, up to 11-foot rod was the norm for me. And I think they all had like a 14-inch butt. Going to surf, it was an easy transition to longer rods. But some of my custom surf rods that I built, and a lot of my Shimano Tirolejos that I built, I always had that reel seat positioned lower, especially if the rod had a more parabolic or a moderate action. I didn't need that leverage to load up a faster action rod to throw lures, which a lot of the companies out there still do today. It boggles my mind. The surf rod industry is very old school, I guess is the best way to put it. And this kind of changes things. This rod's based on the design of an 85,000 yen Megabass Shadow Pangea Japanese sea bass surf rod. Only it comes in at about 1/10 of an ounce lighter. It's exactly 7 ounces. All the rods are double wrapped and under wrapped. They're a little heavy on the epoxy, but even still, the rod's 7 ounces on the button. So that extra epoxy, it doesn't get in the way of anything. It adds maybe 1/8 of an ounce overall total, and it adds a little bit extra protection. The guides, size 25 for the stripper, going all the way down to size 6 single footer. So when it comes down to how much pressure you can put on a fish, you're not fishing this rod with a 15-pound drag. You're not high sticking. You're not swinging 10-pound stripers over bulkheads. So get that out of your mind. It's, again, intended for open beach. You don't want to be high sticking. You want to play out the fish. This will be the ultimate Albi rod. My two main Albi rods are a 9-foot Shimano Tiroleo, the old series, that was rated 2 ounces, and a Tailwalk High Tide TZ, which is about a $500 rod when it came out. And it's a very similar rod to this, the Megabass Shadow Pangea and the Dark Matter O.B. Only difference is it's 9-footer rated to 1 ounce, which is a blast, but when you actually do have to stop a fish from taking you to New York City off the tip of Sandy Hook, you don't have the grunt. You just don't. It'll cast, 3/4 of an ounce bait, 100 yards, no problem. But this rod, I can see myself enjoying more. It weighs a little bit more. It's a lot more powerful. But you're not going to be overgunned. One thing I noticed fishing this rod outside of its intended purpose, catching river smallmouth that are like 10 or 12 inches, it doesn't feel like it's an overpowering rod. When I was catching striped bass over 20 pounds, it never felt like it was an underpowered rod, except for when I was in that heavy current. And again, 7 ounces. Now, the only other rods that I can think of that are in the same category, I don't really think are available in the U.S. market at this time. You have the Dialuna, the Daiwa More Than Branzino, the Essence, a lot of the Japanese sea bass rods. In the U.S., Killsong's brought over the Suzuki rods, but again, they're longer butt rods. Similar weights, similar actions, I would assume. I haven't ever actually used them. I could just tell by his bendy pictures and his videos online that the actions are similar. But again, longer butts, 20-inch butts, if you look at the specs. This is like a freshwater butt, and it's perfect. You hitch that butt right up on your belt. You don't have to really stick it in, at your knee. It's great. It's very comfortable to be fished. When you're working baits, when you're actively imparting an action on the lure, you can go ahead and kind of, as I say here, stick the butt right next to my nuts and twitch away. It's a very comfortable setup. I don't think that you'll find a rod that fishes more comfortably. I don't think there's a rod out there with the amount of effort that you put in can get you the distance that you get out of it in its ideal weight range, which again, we'll give its sweet spot. It's real power zone. It's power curve where the effort you put in, it amplifies to the most in its greatest efficiency. We'll say it's like a tick over 3/4 of an ounce up to 1.5 ounces. That's where it really hammers casts. Long range with minimal effort. You can flat foot, overhead thump a cast out. Well over 120 yards with 15-pound, 20-pound braid. To get that maximum efficiency, this is where the reel comes into play. I've used a variety of reels, the largest being the Daiwa Ballistic LT 6000, which is its largest version. Comes in at around 10 ounces, probably closer to 11 with a full spool 20-pound braid. And with Daiwa J Braid Grand, which is far and away one of my least favorite new braids, it rips. I mean, that's where I'm seeing the greatest distances. Using a Certate with 8-pound braid was perfect. It handled it beautifully with a little, 7.5 ounce Certate. 8-pound Power Pro Super Slick version 2 in Onyx. Never had any issues with the rod being too powerful for the line and cracking off on hook sets. Not an issue at all, going all the way down that low. I fished it with a Vanstal VR50, which is the little baby fully sealed machined aluminum egg beater that weighs in at around 10 ounces. Spooled up with about 300 yards of Berkley X9 15-pound. It casts very good, but I wasn't seeing the distance that I was getting out of the Ballistic LT 6000. So if you want a reel and a rod combination that's going to be ultra light in weight, have a lot of power, a lot of cranking power, gotta go with the Ballistic LT 6000. It's not the most rugged reel. It has some seals, but just treat it like it's an unsealed reel. That's my recommendation. Spool it up with some 15-pound Power Pro Slick V2 in Onyx, some 15-pound Berkley X9, and just let it rip. That's all I got to say about that. It's just a fun setup to throw. And guys, follow me on social media on Instagram if you want updates on the conventional version of it. I had it out last night, caught some smallmouth bass, nothing big. The biggest fish of the night, I actually barehanded a rainbow trout that was about 15 inches, go figure. Never did that in my life. I lit it up right before I was calling it a night at 3 a.m. in the middle of a river. And there's this rainbow trout that looked like I gave him a stroke when I hit him with that night quarry.
There's a rainbow trout sitting right in front of me.
Of sunshine. And I was able to just pick him with my bare hand.
Can we catch a rainbow trout barehanded?
Yeah, so far,
that's the question.
The initial layout, I have to add a 13th guide. So it's got 12 guides. Starting with, I believe, size 10, going down to size 6 belly guides, and a couple single-foot runners into the tip. After to add an extra belly guide, about 4 guides down, because the line touches the blank under heavy load. Super excited. I'm liking what I'm seeing so far. Throwing some Scooby-Doo rigs with a 1/4 ounce tungsten and a Kitech Easy Shiner, some square bills, all that kind of stuff. I'm really liking how it was handling with the skis.
We just barehanded a rainbow trout.
Bantam NGL with 30-pound X9.
Oh my god!
Dumped it.
That's
dumped
official.
Immediately with an ounce and
we caught a bass with no bait on a hook. We just
once I get it
barehanded a
fully
rainbow
dialed
trout.
in and wrap up the guides, I'm going to take out some light swim baits and see how it throws them, and some light glide baits, because there needs to be a glide bait rod that can throw a glide bait without it bananaing and throwing like a frisbee. Only a potato chip version. It doesn't exist. There's these beautiful glide baits that cast 30 feet, 50 feet, 60 feet. I want a glide bait that I can throw 80 yards. Jointed glide bait. So it's with all that being said, this kind of went a little long. It got a little chatty. Again, I think it's a cool stick. If you guys want to pick it up, use the link below. It pays me 5%, and every bit helps, goes directly to support the channel and the work I do, which is for you guys. I'm not beholden to any manufacturer. Josh gave me this rod. He's a smart guy. Josh is a smart dude. I'm not going to take that away from him. He didn't say he wanted me to do a review on it or a video on it, but he knows I'm a YouTuber that does reviews. So if I have something, it's content. So yeah, he gave it to me expecting me to do something on it, but he didn't know what I was going to say about it. That's what it comes down to. And like I said earlier, I'm not going to sell myself out for a couple bucks. What's the point? Now, if it was $100,000, oh yeah, I'd be telling you guys, she's giving me $100,000 to shill this rod. Call, $100,000's $100,000. But you damn well would know that it was a completely biased review. I put it in writing. But it's with that being said, if you're looking for a light action surf stick, if you're looking for a big river rod, if you're looking for a long bombing bank beating rod, freshwater style, I'm telling you, it's pretty cool. It's fun. You can use this down on the Florida coast and then throw it off the bank with some spooks and some frogs, some jigs, inline spinners it works with. I had a blast big worming with it. It's a sensitive enough rod. You can use a half-ounce tungsten and a 10-inch worm and thump bass all day. I fish this in big lakes and little ponds and big rivers, little rivers. It's pretty fun. It's a different animal. It's not something that if you didn't grow up like me fishing salmon steelhead rods, you're more accustomed to the traditional surf rod. I think it'll be a little bit of an adjustment. You got to slow down your cast because that push pull happens so quickly with a shorter butt, whereas with the longer, more traditional surf rods, it's a larger motion. Your shoulders are moving more, your hips are more. If you're doing it right, again, shorter butt, it's more compact motion. You want to make sure you're not over casting, you're not over accelerating. You have to make some adjustments. You have to adjust the timing is what you have to basically do. And so with all that being said, I hope you guys enjoyed this. Tight lines, and I'll see you soon.